begin.
First of all, I really would like to express my appreciation to all of you. Warm welcome and gentle support. And also, I really thankful for to the presentation today. So this is, I learned from about culture, the different culture, when I went to VGH, which is my first CPE unit, from my supervisor. He mentioned about many times culture and high contact and low contact. And he frequently mentioned about, I think with me only, because I wasn't the only Asian person, but I probably was not quite speaking in English well enough then. I think I was very nervous, and also that makes me not showing my ability fully with in group and with a supervisor. So he mentioned about different cultures and different background thing, and using high contact and low contact culture. So it was enough to start what it means like. And since then, I looked at different culture and researched about high contact and low contact culture. And I learned, I don't say that I learned a lot, but it is enough to understand me, what are the differences, and also what define me as an Asian person, followed by my behavior and my ways of conversation and everything, which is very obvious, but also it is not quite all about me. So. Okay, I'm ready. Culture is what informs our way of being. It's what shapes our beliefs and values, and it influences our behavior. The first one you see, I said high contact and low contact. And this term, high contact and low contact, were created by an American anthropologist, Edward T. Hall. He described the cultural style of communication in the 1970s. He mentioned those in his book, The Silent Language. He examined the factors that hindered or enhanced the communication between people from different cultural backgrounds. He defines West culture is a low contact culture, and Asian culture is high contact culture. He first discussed the high contact culture in his book, Beyond Culture. As we know, Westerns are individualist. In contrast, Asians are collectivist. And you see that high contact countries are like this, but there are more countries, but this is in general, we can guess that, and we can know that, Africans through Vietnamese, and also something very interesting, and to me, France and Italy, and also there's a United States, and certain United States is the high contact countries. It's a part, but it is defined as a high contact countries. And also this is a low contact countries, which is a Western culture, but Australian, of course, and also German, and as I mentioned about United States, excluding the part I mentioned about certain United state. So, and let's take a look first about authority. Authority. As you see the picture, I mean, this is animate, one. And the person who said, I eat to work. And the other person said, I work to eat. It's quite different. And so, and as those is enough to me to take a look. People in the, Asian and West, perceive authority differently. In low context, hierarchies tend to be relatively flat. People call their boss name by their first name. Names are made to be called by people, of course. People should feel comfortable talking to their managers and even the CEO of a company. This is not an issue. Also, each person's opinion is valid, and all ideas are welcome. Final decisions are based on the team's input, and nobody agrees with anything simply for the sake of it. There is a shared belief. When there is an issue, potentially issues should be flagged as early as possible, and we considered, regardless of the status of the person raising the point, and the issue will be considered and reviewed. And furthermore, feedback is welcomed. Typically prepared to resolve the conflicts by directly addressing the problem. In high contact countries, the hierarchical system has many more levels, and each level really means something. Those at the top have the final word, and the system of order and governance is considered to be extremely important. Seniority actually is a matter. Interacting with the people in organization is all based on position and authority. So I said a high contact culture is a collectivism society. Collectivism is also reflected in the workplace. In another way, achievement is often secondary to group cohesion. In more collectivist workplaces, people spend more time on small talk and rapport building. Decision-making processes typically encourage group cohesion as well. Therefore, in high contact, find it inappropriate to say no directly, since it would challenge the harmony within the group. The negative opinions must be communicated indirectly, while collectivist solutions are more roundabout. At school, at my VSD, students who came from other countries, Korea or other country from Asia, students do not call professors by their name. They have a hard time at the beginning. They are looking for other words to call them with respect. For instance, in Korea, we have a name to call teacher and professor. These are literally noun here, but when Korean use these words, these are proper noun. So that teachers or professors are respected term to be called. So not be called by name. So however, so at their first time, they try call professor, not to call professor's name. Instead, they said Dr. Pat when they need to call people, professor or Professor Pat. So which seems to be allowed to be called like that way, but which sounded not very familiar to Western people. but we and they don't feel comfortable called by name. Then way of interaction. In a low contact culture, asking question is regarded as a common practice. And initially, in class, for example, teachers or professors are seeking to students' understanding of key topics by asking students. Students are encouraged to asking questions, even if these may be challenged by questions, but students are not hesitating to ask questions when they are asked. Of course, not only answering, but also questioning. It isn't necessarily challenging ideas, but rather simply trying to get your head around, but understand, motivates, and processes better. In hierarchy, in high contact society, culture, things work differently. Students would likely feel intimidated by asking questions. It is not only we are shy people, but we actually are grown up in a passive way, so that things are processing in our head, not necessary to spoken out, to be spoken out. So students are fine to show that we are getting understand. So without asking or without questioning or without answering. The importance of politeness to teachers, that they are listening now. I'm listening. That's enough. I have another example. For instance, snapping fingers to call people is appropriate in here because it means pay attention. But high contact countries may consider this gesture is rude. And about eye contact, certainly there are many non-verbal cues that have a completely different meanings in different cultures. One of the most important means of non-verbal communication in any culture is eye contact. In low contact culture, making eye contact is essential communication. Eye contact during social interaction is considered more important than in Asian cultures. It means I'm listening. When people keep eye contact with the person talking to it, that indicates people are focused on paying attention. So there is nothing else. So I'm listening. I pay attention to you. But in high contact culture, we actually are taught not to make eye contact, which is inappropriate, either regarded as it as threatening. And also it gives a message like, I have some complaint to you. So in many Asian cultures, avoiding eye contact with a member of opposite sex as well, and or older people, it's a rude. I mean, some who is older is seen as a show. We actually show our respect to people. That's a difference. And the way we communicate, as you see that this picture, so we can feel that the Donald Trump, the way see the Hillary Clinton. So there is nothing need to be spoken, but we can feel that, we can tell that. That's unspoken word, non-verbal language. That's how how Asian people communicate. It is a way to communicate with the people. In low contact, let me tell you this. In a low contact culture, if I give a presentation like this, I should tell you what I am going to tell you. Then I tell you, and then I tell you what I have told you. Why do I tell you the same thing 3 times? Because everything is about the simplicity and the clarity of the message. The message should be spelled out. I am going to say, I am saying what I have said. Summarizing the key takes away from the meeting and nailing things down in writing are expected to avoid confusion and set clear expectation. In high contact culture, in many Asian countries accept and understand non-verbal communication, which are expressed the meaning or feeling without words. Because people are focused overall making sure that the message was passed simply and clearly. As with the nonverbal communication, what is considered were usually polite behavior in one culture, and also we consider that impolite is the key thing that we consider. Each culture might be uncomfortable with the other's communication strategies, of course, and low contact culture may find the way high contact solve the problems to be frustrating, indirect, or even passive aggressive. Meanwhile, high contact often finds the other approach is uncomfortable and even rude. I think I am using rude and polite and impolite many times while I am talking about. In a high contact culture, we as Asian, we assume that we have a much larger body or share the reference points as you have heard. In this culture, we believe that good, effective professional communication is much more sophisticated and more nuanced and hidden and layered. That's quite interesting. It is not, you guess what I'm thinking. We just, grown up that under that culture, in the culture. So it's naturally, we gain some, I don't want it to say that's ability, but the sense of insight, I would like to say that. So we know that we could tell that and we can guess that. I tend to nodding without vocal response when I have to answer in verbally. Like, this suggestion means just saying, my case, yes, I see, and or I will do it. To the whatever I have seen, ask it. But that I'm okay with this, I am okay. I am totally fine with my nodding. But in Western culture, nodding is used to show that the person is being attentively listening to others saying. It means agree, and I'm listening to you. Same gesture, but different meaning. And then relationship. It is not only indicated Chinese, but I just pick this picture as an example. So this group to the right side is gathered together, but the other side is a one person, and individual and the collectivism. In general, low contact communication is more common in individualistic societies, of course. the individual takes a priority over the group. Individual needs are addressed first, and group members is not considered essential to survival. People who grew up in a more individualistic society are more likely to voice their opinions, especially if they disagree. The sense of privacy is strong in low contact cultures. High contact communication is really only possible when people have a close connection over a long period of time. Such connections are much more widespread in relationship, which is in high contact society, I said. When you hear connection over a long period of time, that you may think of your family as well. So family relationship in collectivism and at the same time in society, I mean, Western society as well. I would like to say that it exists in North America. So this is important to note that no culture is a completely high contact or low contact, since all societies contain at least some part that are both high and low. Let me say this very carefully. Individuals who value low contact communication find high contact communicators as a lazy, undisciplined, disciplined, secretive, lacking transparency, unable to communicate effectively, or those who waste a lot of time in trying to build a relationship as opposed to getting the work done. Because individuals are not expected to have a knowledge of each other's histories or background. And communication is not necessarily shaped by long-standing relationship between speakers, because low contact communication concerns are again more direct messages. The meanings of these messages are more dependent on the word being spoken rather than on the interpretation of more subtle or unspoken clues. As a Korean, I am usually to ask people age, occupations, a place the people were born, and family relationship, or where they live. Sometimes how many make some money. Korean even ask these questions at the first meeting, sometimes, not always. But those are not never common in Western. And we learned this in my school, I think in my high school. And I was taught it is not never ask. And it is a rule, it's a prohibited to ask people, Western people. Members of high contact cultures usually have a closer relationship that lasts for an extended period of time. As a result of these years of interacting with one another, the members know what the rules are, how to think, and how to behave. So the rules do not have to be clearly stated, as I mentioned about. This makes high contact cultures difficult to navigate for those who don't understand the culture's unwritten rules. And what I have learned low contact cultures, one source of information is used to develop knowledge. Thinking is inductive, proceeds from specific to general, focuses on detail. Learning occurs by following explicit direction and explanation of others. An individual's orientation is prepared for learning and problem solving. Speed is valued. How efficient something is learned is important. Now, I remind you, the fast food was created in North America. Example, McDonald's. High contact culture, countries are more focused on group. In fact, one's identity is, as I mentioned about earlier, in large part a function of one's membership and role within the group. People are defined by relationship rather than accomplishment. Importantly, the survival, success, and well-being of the group is the main priority, as it ensure the well-being of everyone included in the group. As a result, harmony, consideration of others, and interdependency are high valued. Countries are collectivist society, as I mentioned about Africa, Asia, and Middle East. And I often make a mistake that I don't finish my sentence, which sounded like a run-on sentence. People still, were waiting for my finish my sentence, from which I thought, I'm done. I already said, but people are still waiting for my sentence. And it is related to culture. So I assume that the other person surely knows what I'm saying now, as I said, in same culture. So we know each other why my intention to say, even I didn't finish my word. And this is a cultural behavior. If I directly translate it from Korea to English, everything would belongs to everyone. For instance, let me tell you this. This is my example. We actually say that we don't use I statement. We say we. And it is very interesting and very silly to hear you. I said, instead my husband, our husband, and our mother. And I always put subject instead of I and we or ours, which is a different one. And I would like to recap high contact cultures. As the social structure is centralized, this is a high contact, right? Centralized, the top leader is primarily responsible for the maintaining harmony in the group. And the advantage is that deals can be made with the person who has authority over the group. Since the high contact cultures believe in the sense of collectivism, there is a sense of belonging and security. Group cohesion is high, and individuals are motivated to attain goals working in group. People are sensitive to conflict, and the attempt is toward avoiding conflict or resolving as soon as possible. More important is given to group think and accuracy. People are usually slow to change. And as you said, all these are about high contact culture. This is a low contact culture. Communication is concise, straightforward, simple, and clear. Require attention to the literal meanings of words than to the context surrounding them. With the emphasis on sending and receiving accurate messages, nothing is left to interpretation, and actual intent is conveyed in words. Repetition is often used to provide the necessary. The purpose and outcome of the communication takes precedence over interpersonal relationship. Focus on following standards and procedures leads to short-term relationship. This requires that more value be placed on logic, facts, and directness of the message. Sorry. And these expectations are absolutely to connect to their cultural background. Once we understand how communication people who have a different cultures, we will be able to appreciate these differences. Communication, I say culture, is understanding. It is not only what to say, but also how to say. Once we understand how communication in high contact culture and low contact culture, as we appreciate these differences, that takes a step to reduce the communication gap instead of being tapped by cultural differences and causing misunderstanding. This is my presentation, and thank you for listening. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask during the coffee time. Thank you.